Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rock and Roll podcast. Check out this record. My name is Frank, and today we're going to build upon the heavy metal goodness we brought to you last week and add a little orchestra. And on this journey with me is my life mate, Mark.
Hey, I just had another pickle, but don't forget Grumble Guy.
You can find us and Grumble Guy on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcast, and you can see these delicious mugs right here on YouTube.
But when you ask, great question. Thank you so much for asking. New episodes drop each and every Friday.
That's right. And if you're hearing us for the first time, you're probably not annoyed with one of our past reviews.
Give it time.
Give it time. So welcome. Wait, because as you become more knowledgeable in the music that we love, your friends are going to start not liking you. And once you go to that record store, you're going to move past the YouTube section and you're going to reach for something better. Absolutely.
That's right.
Here we review records track by track, have lots of musical discussions. We do spotlight episodes, some mysteries in rock and roll as well.
Okay, so listen, I know we just threw a lot at you there, but you definitely want to check out our verse series where Frank and I will duke it out on behalf of two bands for something we like to call Total Stereo Domination.
Love it. Oh, love it. Love it. It's almost like Dr. the villain from Inspector Gadget. Was that Mr. Claw?
Oh yeah. Dr. Claw.
Dr. Claw. Yeah, there you go.
There you get you, Gadget.
So while you're checking us out, be sure to look at Instagram, Facebook group. Hopefully these episodes will leave you wanting more of our musical goodness and you keep coming back and you listen to us. And if you got a record that you want us to check out, drop a comment wherever you find this. Maybe we'll review it on this show. Like, subscribe, rate, review. So do all that. So Mark, heavy metal backed by an orchestra, symphonic metal. That's a thing. That's a legit thing. And as we dig our forks into this genre, we could trace its roots back to the 90s with regards to it catching mainstream success. That I think was largely due to the 1999 release of Metallica's S&M. Mark, what's your thoughts when that record came out? Were you into that S&M record?
Oh, I was totally into it. I was in school band from the 6th grade until they kicked me out for fighting in the 9th grade. So it was definitely something I found really interesting and was really surprised at the fact that this was already a blossoming subgenre that Metallica really just kind of not necessarily piggybacked off of, but really brought to the forefront. I would think that something like this would have kind of come out on its own ahead of this. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I do love listening to that records.
Awesome. Both of them are very good.
Very good. Absolutely. So the origins of symphonic metal actually can be heard, believe it or not, Mark, on 73's Black Sabbath record, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. And there's a song called Spiral Architect, and that featured an orchestra. There you go. However, it was the extreme Swiss band called Celtic Frost that in 1985 used a French horn on their album to Megatherion.
Cool.
Yeah. Now moving to the 90s, we have groups, and I'm not familiar with these, I'm just saying their names. We have groups Believer, Therion, and Nightwish, all incorporating these sounds into their music, with Therion using classical compensational techniques. To niche this, Mark, even further down, we get this symphonic meshing, with all types of metal, from power metal, black metal, death metal, and gothic metal, which brings us to this band that we're going to talk about, Epica. Now, before we get to Mark, why do you think this style is particularly popular in Europe and in Scandinavia? You think it's because classical music was obviously a stamp on that side of the globe in some form, going all the way back to medieval times?
You know, Frank, I think there's a good portion of that in the mix for sure. But I think a lot of it boils down to theatrics and what's more theatrical, dare I say, epic than a big old honkin' classical arrangement. What's cool about this kind of genre mashup is how natural it feels, right? The grandiose of an orchestra, of course, the grandiose of orchestral music just fits really well with the over-the-top nature of heavy metal.
Yeah. They really blend together. Now back to the band Epica. Let's talk
Mhm.
about them. They formed in 2002 in the Netherlands by rhythm guitarist and growler vocalist Mark Jensen and a unknown Simone Simmons, age 17, on lead vocals, who is Jensen's girlfriend.
Oh, I hope he was also 17, or we got a problem.
Let's just take a minute. Okay. So I'm going to mess up some names, but here we go. We got guitarist Ad Soldier, drummer Jaron Simmons, bassist Yves Hutz, and keyboardist Cone Jensen, spelled differently than Mark Jensen's last name. And Jaron Simmons, I haven't seen if there was a correlation between him and Simone Simmons. It didn't say that. So now the band assembled an orchestra choir made up of 3 violins, 2 violas, 2 cellos, and an upright bass. They would go on to release basically a record every 2 years from that point. So in 2003, let's start there. We saw the debut, the Phantom Agony. 2005 brought us Cosign to Oblivion. 2007, we had the Divine Conspiracy. 2009 brought us Design Your Universe. 2012, Requiem for an Indifferent, and the one we are for the indifferent, and the one we're covering today is 2014's Mark, the Quantum Enigma. Now, Jensen and Simmons and the other Jensen would remain, but lineup changes would bring us Isaac Dalahay on lead guitar, Rob Van der Loo on bass, and Aaron Van Wiesenbeck on drums. Now, for the concept of this record, Mark, Simone Simmons stated the following. You ready for this?
Please.
All right. Well, in quantum physics, right?
I kicked my brother out of the band.
In quantum physics, they have done this experiment, and they found out that whenever you observe particles, they take a certain shape. And when you are looking away, it's a different shape. So in a way, you can say you never know what is reality, right? This whole like red pill, blue pill stuff. We determine our reality through our observations. And if we look away, reality would change. So the quest of finding out what is reality, what are illusions, is a topic that goes through all of the lyrics. Life and death and everything in between. The power of the human mind has been the main source of inspiration for this record. With that said, Mark, are you ready to crack this thing open and place the funnel and see how long it takes us to suck it down?
I'm going to slurp this down like a chili dog, brother. But I want to ask you something.
Please do.
If I'm looking at it and it's like, okay, it's shaped like my phone, and I turn away and it turns into something else, but I don't know what it is.
Right.
How do I know it's not still my phone?
Right. How is it like it could be a different reality, and that's what they call phones, right?
Oh,
maybe
that makes no sense.
That doesn't actually.
I mean, like, look, I'm not saying that that's not wrong. I'm saying as far as quantum physics go, I have no fucking clue what they're talking about.
Yeah,
and that's anybody talking about quantum physics. If I pretend I know, I'm full of shit.
I read the main books I read, this Mark, are time travel books, and when they get all technical like that, I'm like, I'm gonna just continue to read it, but I don't understand it. So,
well. I'm ready for that chili dog.
All right, here we go. So track number 1, Originem, which is a prelude. In this 2-minute and small change prelude, we get this, lack of a better word, Epica intro with the full-on orchestra and no signs of metal. The Baroque lyrics translate from the Latin state. Here we go. We are joined, seeking our source, which is the origin of knowing. We are full of vigor. How things are made by cultivating. So we invent nature. Brief, but soaked in this metaphysical essence, setting up the stage basically for the show, Mark. Did this amp you up by any chance?
I don't know that I'd say amped up, but I really like the well-constructed arrangement. It's an interesting little piece to kick this off. I like that they took the time to really kind of set the mood for the record. I'm kind of thinking maybe that this is a concept album. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see, right? So track 2, The Second Stone. Here is the metal with a really aggressive and shredding intro. Simone's vocals instantly are showing off their talents with this range and the ability to command the song in the midst of all this chaos that's going on. Then Jensen's growls come in, and although just for a short bridge, and even though I don't mind growls, typically I was instantly thinking, I was like, okay, I hope this doesn't occur often throughout the record. But so that aside, for the first album of listening to this band, it was a good introduction as to what they could do. Mark, what's your thoughts on this?
Frank, this track was just like biting into a good chili dog, right? You get a little bit of the, you get some bun, you get some dog, you get some chili, you get a little onion, you get some cheese, right? You got a taste of all of it. So it's good in that sense. You're getting a good taste of everything that you've been promised from symphonic metal, right?
Right.
Simone's vocals are clear and beautifully sung. Growling guy gets a good growl in. The choirs. The rest of the band hits all of those symphonic metal points that you'd expect. So yeah, good first song after that kind of cool buildup.
Yeah. Track 3, The Essence of Silence. Well, Jensen's vocals kick us off, and although I am looking for a growler that can balance the clarity, I do like the trade-off between him and Simone's vocals. To me, the song's content is promoting a balanced state of mind for someone who is in disarray, which I like that overall messaging. The solo is quite captivating, and I thought it was cool when they went an octave higher on the last chorus. Mark, do you think there is an essence in silence?
Other than hating the line, I perceive this ain't me. I think there is, sure. Where loud raucous music or a train suddenly passing overhead feels like chaos, silence is then order, right? And again, in this particular case where you're looking at something and it determines what it is you're looking for, I guess that's the meaning of it. Intentionally muting everything is an act of attrition. That's why people find so much meaning in it, in my opinion. So sure.
There you go. Track 4, Victims of Contingency. The intro features a ferocious double bass drum that sounds like the firing off of a machine gun. Jensen again opens up with his growls. So he's the friend at the party that you didn't expect to stop by, but decides to stay, basically. Victims of Contingency sends the message to take responsibility for your life. Mark, are you impressed with the drumming on this track?
Oh, definitely. Like those machine gun double bass in the intro, those killer blast beats. We even get a little bit of like that double bass of a brief hardcore-esque breakdown. I do want to add that while I don't love a lot of the lyrical phrasing, and I'm sure English isn't their first language, so props for that. But I really like the message behind song of taking responsibility for your own actions. I think it's a cool number.
Cool. Track 5, Sense Without Sanity, the Impervious Code. I'm seeing a trend here. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm seeing a trend here with the song structure. So you get the orchestra intro, you get the classical, you get the vocals followed by a thunderous sound, which is the entering of the band, lightning fast speed of the riffs, growling or these choir-esque vocals, and then the actual vocals followed by the natural flow of the song. Listen, it makes sense. I could assume the construction and composition of these songs are not easy at all. Mark, since you started listening to this record, are you sensing things without sanity?
If you mean madness, yes, I'm sensing a bit of madness creeping in, Frank. I think I noticed that structure as well. But remember, this isn't a style you and I listen to much on our own. So some of those intricacies of songs like these are going to be lost on us. That said, the first few listens were tough because I wasn't always sure when a song ended and another began, or if it was just kind of like a mid-song changed and it threw me off. That happened to me twice where I was convinced it was another song. Sitting down and going through track by track really was helpful for getting a bit more out of each song. Growling Guy makes more sense now, for sure, but
he does.
Some of the formula seems to be becoming more apparent. Maybe, I don't fucking know.
There you go. Well, track 6, Unchained Utopia. It could be an early favorite on this album for me. It's a powerful message about the corruption that exists with those pulling the strings. I get the plethora of images in my head, and mostly these structures falling and leaving people in a dystopian type future. Maybe that's the apocalyptic, my apocalyptic neurosis. But how the songs end with this freeing ourselves from the ball and chain, that's always a very liberating feeling to me. So come on, everyone, let it go, and you'll feel much better in life. And Mark, how are you doing thus far in track 6 over here?
Yeah, so my ADHD is grinding my brain right up against my skull. These songs are a bit longer than my attention span really cares for, and so many of these parts just feel tacked on to extend the song length. I think I'd enjoy this in a condensed form more, but I'm not mad about them. And I gotta say, you got a favorite? Not really.
And I was paying attention, and then a bug flew by. So speaking of ADHD,
yeah, it's more of like, this is my least worst so far.
There you go, least worst. Got it.
Yeah, this is the least worst so far. I mean, maybe that other song, I don't know. They're all really just kind of mayonnaise to me. Go on.
But can you name the title of the other song? Because I can't.
Nope.
There you go. So track 7, The Fifth Guardian, which is an interlude. Really beautiful and moving interlude that sounds to me like you're on a journey through the Scottish Highlands. The Fifth Guardian makes me think like a family journey, and the main character is the protector of the spouse or the kids, or it could be none of that. And I was just maybe watching too much Highlander, and maybe just about self-discovery, or again, it could just be none of that. Nevertheless, I found this to be a very touching number and sombering number. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, I'd like to remind everyone, as Ricky Bobby told us, that the Highlander got the Oscar for greatest movie ever. Yeah, I thought it had more of a Southeast Asian feel to it with the flute, but after getting kicked out of the school band in the 9th grade, my education on these variations between classical subgenres really kind of stopped altogether. And I'm just making an assumption based on what I've heard from movies. So plus there is a big old Buddha head on the cover.
That's a good correlation. Yeah,
it does work nicely as a segue. Again, twice as long as it needs to be.
Sure, absolutely. And I love Highlander, just so you know, the movie and the show.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
like I said, it won the Oscar for greatest movie ever.
There you go. Track 8, Chemical Insomnia. The interlude blends into the intro with a very nice and troubling and evil sounding intro, which sets the tone for the content. Lots of imagery with being or power controlling its host, and what would, I guess, make sense as a common theme here for this music. We have a prog rock breakdown before the exchange of vocals between Jensen and Simmons. I was personally hoping for that the growling would not make an appearance in this song, but what are you going to do? Mark, what say you?
I don't know if it was the lyrics, but I kind of wish this was an instrumental again. I don't know if that last track ruined me. All that imagery feels like stacking too many toppings onto that chili dog. You just aren't gonna get what you want, and it causes just the whole thing to just be overdone and not really work. Your hands are just messy and it feel like crap. Plus, the rhyme scheme is kind of terrible at points. It's just cliche after cliche, and I just have a hard time believing they're actually trying to say something with so many cliches, which it's okay to not say something with your music, but then maybe tone down every line being a metaphor. I don't know. Maybe just me.
There's that balance they were talking about a couple of songs ago, right? Maybe you gotta.
They just left it off this one.
Track 9, Reverence, Living in the Heart. More Machine Gun, not Kelly, more Machine Gun intros with the shredding guitars, chaotic arrangements of sounds. One could probably find 90% of these episodes where I'm saying something, which is what I'm going to say, right, of the following. I don't mind the song, but 9 tracks in, it's starting to become a bit long, which means it's hard to draw the line between song to song. Again, you could go back, reference these episodes. I'd probably say it more often than not, and it's true. To some, that may be fine, but I do like albums to have the ability to distinguish themselves from song to song. During this song, I had to keep looking at the title to see which song I was listening to. And up until the insane solo at the end, which was pretty badass, I was really having a hard time. Mark, do you feel the same way here?
Yeah, 100%. There are some really cool parts here. However, with the song all being so long and so repetitive, I'm really struggling to find a single song that's sticking in my brain. It feels more like I've been playing a video game and the soundtrack to the video game is just looping, and then you get to like a boss and like, oh, it does a little change, and then the next level a different song starts. So it's kind of not really doing anything for me at this point.
Yeah. And I even forget if I say this at the end or not, but it's one of those albums that you could literally put on in the background, just not pay attention, but kind of know it's there,
Yeah.
Just let
you
it
do
play.
say that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Damn it. All right, track 10.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. The ghoulish milady. Well, with all the verbal debris that I just spewed out here, we get the variance in sound. The isolation in the music gives us a front row view for its strengths. That's really what Simmons' voice possesses. I appreciate the song's construction as it's one. I just wish I had a easier time picking these out in the crowd. Jensen's growls, I don't mind here because there's something about the blending of that growl with the music, and again, it features that balance that we talk about. But Mark, are you ghoulish milady?
Is it ghoulish milady or ghoulish malady?
Probably ghoulish malady.
Okay, I wasn't sure, and I couldn't tell if you were making a joke or not.
Yeah, I was trying to.
So she has a beautiful voice, right?
Yes.
But she stays in such a high range for so much that when she's singing like just kind of the everyday words that fill in songs that aren't kind of the high points of songs, the songs can sound a bit ridiculous to me. Again, some moments here that really work well together, but the long format is working against them here because she's got to fill these long songs with these like overdone lyrics that just don't always match her voice and her vocal performance, and it takes some of the shine off of songs like these for me.
There you go. All
Yeah.
right. Well, my lady.
Come, my lady. Be my butterfly, my sugar. I'm actually not like growling it up. That was better, right?
You're a good growler.
No, I'm not.
Track 11, Canvas of Life, an alluring piano intro with a classical guitar really shows Simone's vocals to shine bright. I wouldn't want a whole album of this at all, but with a band like this, I think these songs move along the albums nicely. Canvas of Life is pretty much the circle of life, so maybe next time I watch The Lion King, I will mute it and have this song on loop, perhaps. Mark, you think maybe we could do that over YouTube?
I was just thinking, I'm just never gonna watch Lion King ever again. And if this was cut into that, I don't know that I'd watch that either. Anyways, speaking of things that I would cut, I'd cut this song off at about 2.5 minutes before the drums come in. I think it works better as a thoughtful interlude, but again, it feels like they're just tacking more and more onto the back of these songs to feel like some arbitrary time limit that they have to meet because it's a symphony or some shit. At 5.5 minutes, this song is just drags out way too long. And it's interesting if you look at the track listing and the song times, the song lengths, excuse me, with the exception of the last song, or I guess whatever, the title track,
right,
they're all right around 5.5 minutes. And it's a little like when I see that consistently, it feels less like you're composing something that means something and more like you've got a formula you're sticking to and that you don't really give a shit about the music. I mean, that's just me.
There's a deliberate nature to it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, and it's, like not every Mozart piece is 18 minutes long, right? There's some short ones, there's some long ones.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so the idea that like for some reason all of the actual songs, right? Some of the interludes are shorter, right? The opening's shorter, but like the actual tracks are all 5.5 minutes ish long. Like they're all within like 20 seconds either way. kind of doesn't seem,
Yeah.
gotcha.
It's
Makes
genuine
sense to me.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Makes sense.
Mhm.
Well, track 12, Natural Corruption.
Here we go.
More dystopian imagery with the lines of corruption resting with those that seemingly control us is all there. With a band like this, I'm sure there's, again, like a box of content that you just pull out that you have to reside in due to the overall vision of the band, kind of almost similar vein to what you were talking about earlier with the song arrangements.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Listen, at track 12, it's another grand sounding song. But Mark, are you naturally corrupted?
Yeah, I've been told by many Christians that I am. Fuck them. Anyways, back to track 12. I wasn't sure if this was meant to be a concept album, and I said that earlier, or if it's just the tone this album takes, but it does feel like they're choosing to stay in that thematic lane, doesn't it? While the songs are starting to more or less sound more individual here on the back end of the album, there is a bit more distinction. It's also starting to just blur together, and I can't remember the first half of this record at all at this point. It's just symphony intro, pretty singing, blast beat, growling, and then rinse repeat. Like it's really just starting to blur together, with the exception of the couple intros that actually distinguish songs from songs.
Wait a minute, there's a first half to this album?
I don't even know where I am in time and space anymore. This is an enigma of quantum physics, Frank. We're gonna look away, and neither one of us is going to exist.
Oh my god.
Shit. I told you.
Ooh, I'm scared right now.
Yeah.
Well, track 13, the Quantum Enigma. Here we go. Title track. In parentheses, Kingdom of Heaven 2.
That's a great sequel.
Right. So the Kingdom of Heaven is a trilogy in the band's discography, with Kingdom of Heaven, the first one, being on 2009's Design Your Universe. This track is the title track for this record, and it's the second installment. And the third, which I'll mess up, is the Antediluvian Universe, which will eventually be on 2021's Omega record. You could break it down to a metaphysical level, as this record, of course, has quantum in it, and it's apparent question. Really, it's questioning everything about life and its specific meaning, from what is physical, what is not, what we believe, what where we are, what we leave, which we could allude to just from a metaphysical standpoint. Excuse me. The searching of the truth in our journey is what seems to be satisfying one's soul. So at least that's what I'm getting from everything. I mean, a trilogy or a concept like this, it could have easily been an EP, Mark, onto itself. Were you into this tune? It's a long one.
Yeah, no, way too long at 12 minutes. The throat singing up top was kind of cool. Like, again, oh, wait a second, we're distinguishing parts. We're separating these songs in some way. I know a new song was going to start when you start just going right. One of the biggest things that came to me during this was the way they write these choral parts. It's like, remember those hardcore bands who can only sing one syllable at a time?
Yes.
In a very staccato manner. But they're kind of doing that through like most of this album. It feels like they have a really hard time getting the choral, whatever the fuck you call the group of people in the chorus. Holy crap, my brain's doing too much. I had that pickle. It doesn't seem like they're writing those parts for those pieces to go out. They're just staying really stagnant and very repetitive. It's very odd, and it's really become a distraction. In fact, it's kind of nice to have something to be paying attention to at this point.
Whoa, here we are, track 14, Banisher Illusion. It's a bonus track from what I could tell. There's other versions with other tracks, but this is the one that was on Spotify. You get a more Celtic folk influence, which I think is a nice blend. But by this time, the chanting, the choir, I could start doing without it. I don't mind. I would just like a tune or two without it. I'm indifferent to this song. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, it looks like there was a few different bonus tracks depending on which variant of the album you picked up, which is interesting that they released like a couple different digital variants to an album. The variation on the intro was cool, but then it just blends back into the same noise the rest of the album has been for a few tracks. So It was interesting because I thought, oh, maybe this is where Frank made that connection to that other piece sounding kind of Celtic, was that this has kind of that Celtic feel to it as well. But man, I'm just so bored.
There you go. Well, there you have it, folks. Epica, very fitting name for this band. My cousin, who is a big metalhead, he came across a couple of their songs, so he told me to check it out. And his initial presentation of it to me was he said how Simone's vocals were just unworldly and amazing, and then he added how it's a shame that people like Adele, Taylor Swift occupy the spotlight when you have a talent like this. And I think that's that 80-20 rule, Mark, me and you always chat about.
Yeah.
And the fact, and also too, let's be honest, the fact that this style of music, it's not for everybody at all. These are when you get so niche and you narrow down the genres and you throw in other things, you got to be in a certain mood. This is a complicated set of arrangements, and I give the band credit for blending everything together, from their name and then matching the music, the futuristic, dystopian, metaphysical, lyrical content. It's presented like a play, like a movie, or even an opera. I wouldn't say there's a flowing story here with an evident plot or climax, but there's consistent themes that you could add to your imagination for the story you want to create. Musically, listen, the band is undoubtedly tight, and the guitars are really, I think, superior in their technical skills. The drums, Mark, were talking, acting like they're firing off machine guns. The choir, the orchestra, adding not only the strings but the Baroque vocals that take you back. Simone's vocals, to me, are the highlight, as they really do add to the thematic nature of the band. While I get the point of the growls, I could do without some of them. I don't mind them coming in from here and there to add to the song. Some of my favorites that stuck out to me were the Second Stone, Unchained Utopia, the Fifth Guardian, which is the interlude, Omen, and I did like the title track. Overall, I think this is a band and record, of course, that you need to be in the mood for. It's certainly one you can play in the house. Oh, there it is, while you're doing other stuff. I will look more into the catalog, but I do need time to pass to really get mentally ready for it. I give this album a 5 out of 10. So, Mark, why don't you take us down the avenue of your final thoughts?
Cilantro, amigo. I don't like it. Now, there are some really cool things here, right? The guitars shred and can be really cool. I think Simone's vocal performance has some great highs, but as I mentioned, there are some moments where she's clearly over singing the song, and it really detracts from the music for me. Growly McGrowlerson has some moments too, but more often than not, I feel like I'm pairing a more traditional male singer with Simone would have worked better in a few of the songs.
Yeah.
Her primary counterpoint shouldn't be quite as limited in range as he is. Just like her performance shouldn't be quite so limited. And it's anyways, I'd like to add, I've listened to a few of their other albums to get kind of like a baseline.
Right.
And she's not as bad about it on other albums. So perhaps it's more of just the approach to this album, where she tends to stay quite so high.
Right.
Unsurprisingly, by now, I think the album drags to the point of getting just absolutely muddled together. And honestly, it's not really till the back half of the album that the intros start to take on their own identities and signal a new song has even started. I get why people like this style of music, but this album really leaves me wanting, mostly for it to end. This is getting a 3.5 out of 10 for me. I didn't enjoy this, but if you like big old orchestral arrangements and ridiculous lyrics and over the top shit, go for it. Check that shit out.
There you go. And you brought up a good point too with Simone's vocals and being paired with a more traditional male singer, because one thing that was missing and taking the choir out was harmonies, right? Harmonies. Yep. Paired with Simone's vocals, and I think that would have been done, because the growling wouldn't be paired nicely with Simone's vocals. That just wouldn't work. So if you had a traditional singer paired with Simone, maybe it could have added even more elements to the songs.
Yeah, and that choir was always like, if she was pushed up to a 7 on the volume, they were never more than a 4.
Right. Okay.
They
good
were
point.
clearly a backdrop instrument. They were not a focus. And I think that plays, especially when it comes to something like harmonies, you can't just have one person doing this high harmony and then this background sound trying to do the other part. It just doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
But like I said, on some of the other albums, her range really is much more balanced. And it works better in places. But I mean, like I said, that just might be the way they wanted to approach this record.
Yeah. Could be the song arrangements, could be a number of things. The key that the song is in.
Interesting. And since she kicked her brother out of the band, who knows? I mean, maybe that was I don't know that dude was her brother. I'm just teasing. Or that she kicked him out. I don't know.
Well, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, at least they're not Evanescence, right?
I mean,
all right, Mark. So tell us what you got, or tell me what you got for the next episode.
For sure. So, it's no surprise if you've been listening. Frank and I recently did Avails Over the James versus Hot Water Music Caution. We followed that by doing Chuck Reagan versus Tim Barry with both of their first solo albums.
We did.
Then we did 2 metal albums. I don't want to burn people out on Hot Water Music yet, but since Chris Wallard has joined the band, I thought maybe it'd be fun to look back at his last album with the Flatliners, so that when we do get to the new Hot Water Music album, we have a little bit more clarity in terms of what he brings to the table for Hot Water Music. So for next week, we're going to be doing the Flatliners 2017 album, Inviting Light.
Ooh, and you mean Chris Cresswell, not Chris Wallard.
Yes, Chris Cresswell, excuse me.
A lot of Chris's. Don't worry.
Yeah. Just like the Jansons, Johnsons, and Johnsons in this one. There's Epica fans right now swearing in their car, like swerving off the road, hitting guardrails, ready to come kill us.
Oh, we're gonna be liable for that, man.
Oh, no, we're not.
No.
Drive safely, folks.
Yes. I say that at the end too. When I say be safe out there for every episode.
Specifically, that is us not taking liability for anything you do to yourself while listening to the episode.
Absolutely. That's awesome, though.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. You picked that record because that record's been a frequent flyer that I've been listening to. And I think it's really, really nice to start learning their work and how they evolved and then how that plays a role. So very excited. Great choice. Going to be awesome. So listen, thank you for listening. We appreciate you guys stopping by. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, review. And what did I say before? Be safe out there.
Be safe out there. Yeah. Do all of that, but don't forget to say it with me now. Oh my, oh hell yes, oh bye. You guys really just gonna be like that? You're not gonna let me just talk on the podcast? Bye. Like a musical contribution to this epic of an